I need an ambulance, hurry.
It started with a bizarre 911 call from a millionaire mogul.
My guts just came out of my stomach.
No one knew what caused Stephen Beard's mysterious injury. His wife had no idea why police had broken into their home.
I kept hearing a woman screaming, "Why are you in my house? What's going on?"
Then an emergency worker found the first clue.
They saw a shotgun shell sitting at the foot of the bed, and at that point they realized that they had a crime scene, not a medical emergency.
A web of deceit turned friends, family, and lovers against one another.
The biggest hurdle was that our star witness was going to be the person who pulled the trigger.
Once you knew what had happened to you, the police come to visit you. I'm Paula Zahn, on the case in New York, and tonight we travel to Austin, Texas. Stephen Beard was a Texas tycoon with a waitress wife half his age. When police responded to a 911 call at his mansion one night, nobody could figure out exactly what had happened. It was an odd start to a case that would become a Texas-sized mystery about love, death, and a whole lot of money.
Hello?
Hello?
Do you need an ambulance?
I need an ambulance, hurry. My guts just came out of my stomach.
October 2nd, 1999, just after 3 a.m., a bizarre call came into a 911 center in Austin, Texas.
What is going on there?
My guts just jumped out of my stomach. I'm in bed.
Okay, sir, how did
I'm in awful pain.
The caller was 74-year-old millionaire Stephen Beard. He was alone in his bedroom, his stomach badly bleeding.
He said that his guts were pouring out, something had happened. He didn't know what. He didn't know if he had injured himself somehow, what had happened to him.
Detective Alan Howard from the Travis County Sheriff's Department was a deputy in 1999. He was driving his patrol car near the Beard Mansion when the call came in. He was the first to arrive, ahead of the ambulance.
The residence is extremely dark. It was, in the middle of the night, and you drive up to the house and there are no lights on outside at all. It almost looks like nobody's home.
Deputy Howard banged repeatedly on the front door, and when no one answered, he walked around the house.
But when I went around the back, I could actually look into Mr. Beard's bedroom through his sliding glass door. He was laying in his bed on his back. He was uncovered from the sheet. His nightstand light was on, and you could see that literally he was holding his intestines in his hands.
Howard then shattered the glass door and went inside. EMS arrived moments later and began to help Stephen.
I had no idea who Stephen Beard was. I'd lived in Austin 2 years, and he was just another person who lived in a really rich neighborhood in Austin to me.
The deputy might not have known him, but Stephen Beard was a prominent citizen in Austin. He had made his mark as the co-owner of a television station that later became the Fox affiliate. After losing his first wife to cancer, he met his second wife, Celeste, only a few short weeks later.
I was working at Austin Country Club, and everyone in all of the servers were arguing over who was going to wait on him because they were scared of him. So I volunteered to go wait on him, and that's how I met him.
The two made an instant connection. Not long after that first meeting, Celeste moved into Stephen Beard's home. At first, Stephen told friends and family Celeste was helping manage the household.
My mom died in October. She moved into the house as a housekeeper in December to take care of things that Mom would normally take care of.
But soon it became clear that Celeste was doing more than just helping out around the house. Despite the fact that Stephen was 40 years older, a May-December romance had blossomed between them. The couple enjoyed being together. A few months later, Stephen and Celeste were married.
He was fun, he was outgoing, he was boisterous.
Celeste had twins, teenage daughters named Jennifer and Christina. A few years into their marriage, Stephen adopted the girls. After 5 years of marriage, they seemed to be happy.
I saw Stephen as my protector, my champion, somebody that I could talk to about anything, and he wasn't judgmental. He was my friend.
But Stephen's health wasn't good. He needed a breathing machine at night, and he and Celeste often slept apart. On the night he called 911, he was alone in his room. His wife was in a different part of the house.
Celeste was in Christina's room. Christina woke up, saw her mother standing at the door and peering out.
Celeste says she didn't know what to make of the scene outside, but it frightened her. So she told Christina to call 911.
They said that it was the police, that they were trying to get in the house. So she hung up the phone and we started walking down their wing.
I kept hearing a woman screaming, "Why are you in my house? What's going on? Why are you in my house?"
They wouldn't tell me what was wrong with him. They just kept asking me, did he have surgery? Did he have surgery?
Emergency workers assumed that some kind of surgical incision had burst open. Stephen had lost a lot of blood and was taken to the hospital in a helicopter.
I was worried because Stephen was overweight. You know, he had problems with his heart. He drank too much. So I was concerned. You know, he might have had a heart attack. He might have fallen in the bathroom again. You know, all these things went through my mind. I told him I loved him, and I mean, I was just glad to see that he was alive.
Police escorted Celeste and Christina to the hospital to be with Stephen. Jennifer, who hadn't been home that night, met them there. Back at the house, as emergency crews were cleaning up, police made a shocking discovery.
They saw a shotgun shell sitting at the foot of the bed, and at that point they realized that they had a crime scene, not a medical emergency.
What had really happened in the house that night? Perhaps nothing was as it seemed.
At that point, everything changes. You realize that's a shotgun shell, there is a attempted murder or a suicide in progress, there's a gun here somewhere, and there's a person here somewhere.
While Stephen Beard was fighting for his life, police were now looking for a gunman.
We went in every room in the house, looked in every closet, looked under every bed where a person could be hiding. Then when we knew the house was secure and the assailant was gone, we went back and secured the crime scene itself.
Detectives were called in to investigate. They discovered some drawers had been ransacked and Stephen's wallet was missing. Because everything else in the house remained intact, they suspected the scene had been staged.
Whether they meant to make it look like a burglary or a robbery, I don't know. The shotgun shell was the only thing that really had to go on at that point.
Police were now left with the question of who would shoot Stephen Beard and why. It wouldn't be long before they had a suspect, and it was someone the Beard family knew very well. Coming up, as Stephen Beard fights for his life, the investigation into who shot him heats up.
I really was in shock. I was scared to death.
Media mogul Stephen Beard was shot as he slept in his Austin, Texas mansion. It had the look of a home invasion gone wrong, but police weren't so sure. And now they were about to find out they'd been right all along. Someone wanted Stephen Beard dead. Stephen Beard's family had no idea he had been shot. They first heard of it when police approached them in the hospital and said someone had tried to kill him. Now, Stephen was in intensive care, barely clinging to life.
I really was in shock. I was scared to death.
As Celeste and others who'd come to the hospital worried about Stephen's life, detectives asked them to take a gunshot residue test. They believed someone close to him had tried to kill him and almost succeeded.
They started swabbing our hands. And I remember asking them, am I a suspect or something?
The test results showed none of the family members or friends who had assembled at the hospital had fired a gun. Just as police thought they were back at square one, they got a big break. One of the twins' friends pointed them in a new direction.
One of them said, "You really need to talk to a woman named Tracy Tarleton."
They'd known each other for only a year, but Tracy Tarleton had become one of Celeste Beard's best friends. Both women had suffered from depression, and that shared experience cemented a powerful bond.
Here was Tracy, somebody that I could say, wow, you know, it wasn't just me that went through all of this. She knew how I felt inside, and I knew how she felt inside. And it was like, wow, you know, there's finally somebody that I can talk to about this. You know, I don't have to keep it inside.
Detectives went to talk with Tracy Tarleton. She agreed to let them inside her home.
I asked her if she had any weapons, and she said yes. I said, do you have a 20-gauge shotgun? She said, yes, I do. I said, would you consider letting us see that gun? And at this point, she said, do I need a lawyer? And I said, well, that's up to you.
Tracy got the gun. It had been a gift from her father and was engraved with her name. Police took it to the crime lab for testing and brought Tracy in for questioning. At the start of the interview, she was calm and collected.
She was very, very able to control her emotions. There was no emotional outburst of when we told her that Mr. Beard had been shot. It didn't appear that at the time that she had anything to do with it.
But as the questions got more pointed, Tracy grew increasingly agitated.
She would cross her arms at crucial times in the interview as to, did you shoot Mr. Beard? No, I did not. She was very antsy. It looked to be very, very nervous at the end of the interview.
It all started to add up. The shotgun, her behavior, plus Tracy had no alibi for the night of the shooting. Detectives were confident they had their shooter.
We would have been very, very surprised if, number one, the shotgun shell had not been fired from that weapon, and number two, if Tracy Tarleton had not been the shooter of Mr. Beard.
But why would Tracy Tarleton, Celeste's best friend, want to shoot Stephen Beard? A few days passed, and the results of the tests on Tracy's shotgun came back. As expected, it was a perfect match. Her gun was the one used to shoot Stephen Beard. Police arrested Tracy Tarleton and brought her to headquarters once again.
We knew the weapon had been used. We had a pretty good idea that Tracy had used it.
When the police interviewed her at the police station after they found out that the shotgun was a match, Tracy refused to talk, and she asked for a lawyer.
But police still had enough evidence to charge her with attempted murder. She was arraigned and released on bond until her court date. 4 months passed, and Stephen Beard began to slowly recover.
He was getting better. He was really optimistic that he was going to be all right.
He was doing pretty good. He was walking around pretty good and holding his own fairly well, you know. And I told him, I said, just don't think you're quite ready to go home yet.
Celeste also believed that Stephen wasn't ready to be released. She says she was concerned with the rash Stephen had.
A week or two before Stephen was ready to come home, he had this horrible rash on his groin. And it was, I mean, I can't even describe it. It was horrible.
Celeste voiced her concerns to doctors, but they said Stephen was well enough to go home, and they released him. Celeste decided she should be Stephen's caretaker.
I didn't hire a private nurse because Stephen asked me to take care of him. And I thought, you know, after everything that he's been through, you know, that's the least I could do is, you know, take care of him.
But after only a few days at home, Celeste said the rash had gotten worse, and she took Stephen back to the hospital.
I was going to tell the hospital that they need to readmit him. And it was really hard because he kept crying and he didn't want to stay there.
Stephen Beard never came home again. He died on January 19th, 2000.
It turns out that he did have an infection, you know, that I was right. It was caused by that rash that he had. You know, they think it went up inside of him.
When Stephen died, Tracy Tarleton's troubles escalated. Her bail was revoked, and the charges against her were upgraded to murder. Coming up, Tracy Tarleton ends her silence and breaks the case wide open.
I think it hit her like a bolt of lightning.
In March 2002, Tracy Tarleton was in prison, awaiting trial for the murder of Stephen Beard. Investigators were confident they had the right person, but Tracy wouldn't admit to anything. It would be up to prosecutors to figure out a motive and explain why Tracy Tarleton would want to kill her best friend's husband. Prosecutors realized that to figure out this case, they need to go back to the beginning of Celeste's relationships with Tracy Tarleton and her husband, Stephen Beard. When Celeste met Stephen, she had already been married 3 times before. She was a single mother in a lot of debt. Stephen was a wealthy widower and very lonely.
He was a very social person. He liked people, liked having people around, liked entertaining people. So I know it was very hard for him to be alone.
He was immediately drawn to Celeste. She was young and seemed fun and carefree. Stephen married her after only a few months of dating. But right away, the two began fighting about Celeste's spending habits.
Celeste had a propensity to spend a lot of money. And over the course of the next few years, she spent tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I think Celeste saw in Steve someone who had a big checkbook, someone who would take care of her, someone she could manipulate and use.
I didn't like her at all. I thought she was fake. I thought she was a gold digger.
Stephen figured he could control his wife's spending by putting her on a monthly allowance. But all that did was make Celeste angry.
She would call him names. I mean, derogatory terms like she was a common thing that she called him. And just always talked about what a gross, fat, ugly old person he was.
Celeste became so determined to get more money, she started stealing from her husband's personal account.
She would find those checks laying around, learned how to either sign his name or trace his name on there, good enough that it was a passable forgery. The only reason that we really knew about it is that, when we started questioning Steve about why his account was going negative, he looked at those checks and said, I didn't sign these checks.
But it didn't stop there. One day, the bank contacted Stephen and told him that all of his first wife's jewelry was missing from his safe deposit box.
I called Steve and said, I have some bad news for you. It looks like Celeste has been in the box.
Stephen was furious. He'd finally had enough.
It is my understanding that he talked to his lawyer about filing for divorce shortly after that.
When Celeste found out, she threatened to kill herself. The threat of suicide caused Stephen to reconsider. Instead of going ahead with the divorce, he decided to get help for his wife.
I think Steve, being the good guy he was, had every intention to try to help Celeste overcome whatever issues she had and provide a good life for her. So in his mind, I'm sure he thought he could change her.
Celeste agreed to go to a psychiatric center in Austin, and it was here that Celeste met Tracy Tarleton. Tracy was being treated for depression after trying to kill herself. Tracy was instantly attracted to the free-spirited Celeste, and Celeste was drawn to Tracy, who had similar troubles.
The fact that she was a lesbian didn't really enter into the picture as far as I was concerned. I bonded with her because we had similar childhood traumas.
They bonded together very quickly. Tracy believed that Celeste cared about her, that Celeste loved her.
Celeste said she and Tracy became close, but denied they were ever more than friends.
I never was intimate with Tracy Tarleton, never.
The women remained close after their stay in the hospital, until an alcohol-fueled graduation party for Celeste's girls changed things. Celeste said Tracy tried to kiss her, Celeste had to explain it to her daughters.
Tracy came up and was trying to kiss me. I remember one of the twins asking, if I was a lesbian. I'm like, no, women just act crazy sometimes, especially when they're plied with alcohol.
Celeste may have made an excuse for Tracy, but this was the breaking point in the relationship. The next day, she told Tracy that she couldn't see her anymore. She said Stephen wouldn't allow it.
Instead of having the courage to say, I'm sick of your crap too, I blamed it all on Stephen.
Celeste thinks that in Tracy's mind, Stephen became the obstacle keeping the two of them apart. A few weeks later, Tracy shot Stephen Beard. With Tracy Tarleton in custody and refusing to talk to police, it appeared as though the case was solved. But just weeks before her trial, Tracy had a change of heart and began telling police the details of how she shot Stephen Beard. Tracy now claimed Celeste had masterminded the entire murder. Tracy's change of heart came when she noticed something in a newspaper. Celeste had gotten married.
Tracy was willing to go to prison for Celeste up until the point when she read in the newspaper that Celeste had married Cole Johnson. At that point, Tracy took kind of 2 steps back and really looked at what had happened and came away feeling manipulated and used.
Celeste Beard was now Celeste Beard Johnson. Tracy suddenly felt that Celeste had lied to her all along.
I think it hit her like a bolt of lightning. I think she, realizing that Celeste Beard was not going to wait for her, made her understand that Celeste Beard never loved her and had all along just used her to get rid of Stephen Beard.
Feeling betrayed, Tracy started giving prosecutors an earful. She told them that she and Celeste were in love and had planned on getting together once Stephen was gone. She also said Celeste told her Stephen was abusive and she couldn't take it anymore.
She was telling Tracy that Steve had to die, that he had to die because otherwise she would have to commit suicide.
Tracy said she agreed to go along with the plan to kill Stephen Beard. Celeste had made all the arrangements. She just pulled the trigger. Authorities believed her story. In exchange for a 20-year sentence, Tracy would testify that it was Celeste who was behind Stephen Beard's murder. Police always believed Celeste was involved, and Tracy's testimony would be the key to a strong circumstantial case against her. 2 years after her husband's death, Celeste Beard Johnson was arrested for capital murder. Coming up, the lurid details in the case against Celeste Beard play out in a sensational courtroom drama.
She expressed to me that she wanted this sexual relationship with me.
It wasn't the kind of affection that platonic girlfriends would share.
Armed with the information from Tracy Tarleton, Celeste Beard Johnson was arrested as the mastermind of a plot to murder her husband, Stephen Beard. Celeste told prosecutors she was being framed. She said Tracy was a deeply disturbed woman, angry that she couldn't get what she wanted, and that Tracy's story was an outrageous lie. Celeste Beard Johnson was in custody and forcefully denying any involvement in Stephen's shooting.
I never had a conversation with Tracy Tarleton about killing, hurting, anything to do with Stephen in that regard.
But authorities were now hearing a plot that began when Celeste first met Tracy.
She saw in Tracy Tarleton a woman who was incredibly vulnerable, a woman who could be easily manipulated, a woman she could talk into doing anything she wanted.
Tracy said what Celeste wanted to do was kill her husband. Tracy gave the prosecution all the details of Celeste's deadly plot.
She brought Tracy over, did a walkthrough, showed her which doors would be left unlocked, that the alarm system would be left turned off.
Tracy said Celeste asked her to shoot Stephen in the stomach because she was worried about making too much of a mess.
Celeste Beard did not want to have to repaint the room in the house. So she gave Tracy Tarleton specific instruction, shoot him in the stomach so there won't be blood spattering from his head and getting all over the walls.
Tracy claims she did exactly what Celeste told her to do, but not everything went as planned. Tracy expected the shotgun blast to kill Stephen Beard instantly. But when it didn't, she started to panic.
Steve moved. She didn't expect him to, but he did. He was reaching for the nightstand. Tracy ran out the door and left.
In her rush to leave, Tracy left without retrieving the shotgun shell that was left behind, the shell that would link Tracy to the shooting. Even after her arrest, Tracy stayed silent to protect Celeste. She thought they still had a future together.
While she was sitting in jail here in our local jail, she still had contact with Celeste Beard Johnson. And she thought that they were going to get together at some point when Tracy got finished serving her sentence and when she got out of jail.
Celeste said the whole story was made up in Tracy's deluded imagination. She said she loved her husband and they had a happy marriage, even though they had differences over money.
We did have arguments and disagreements about my spending, but then he finally just would say, you know, okay, whatever you want, darling. As long as he was alive, I could do whatever I wanted, you know, and spend ungodly amounts of money if I wanted to. And I knew, you know, once something happened to him, that was over.
Celeste then explained to prosecutors her version of meeting and befriending Tracy Tarleton.
I felt sorry for her. She couldn't even tie her own shoes. She just looked pitiful, and so my heart went out to her, and my kids felt sorry for her. So I bonded with all the patients there.
Celeste hired renowned defense attorney Dick DeGuerin, who argued that Celeste never told Tracy that Stephen was abusive.
All of that came from Tracy Tarleton's imagination. And the prosecution bit off on it, hook, line, and sinker. They believed everything that Tracy Tarleton said in spite of Tracy's own doctors saying that she was delusional. Celeste had written Tracy saying, I want to be your friend, and that's all. Tracy wouldn't take that for an answer.
With the trial just months away, prosecutors knew the case was Tracy Tarleton's word versus Celeste. In order to convict her, they'd need to find some way to prove that Celeste was a liar. Celeste told prosecutors she stopped seeing Tracy after she made a pass at her. But the investigation revealed that was simply not true.
After Stephen Beard was shot, she continued to have face-to-face contact with Tracy Tarleton. Everything she told Tracy Tarleton led Tracy to believe that they would get through this, that she would support Tracy through this, and that they would be together.
In February 2003, a packed Austin courthouse began to listen to the case against Celeste Beard Johnson. In opening statements, prosecutors said that while Celeste hated Stephen Beard, she loved his money and used her lover to get it.
She got tired of waiting for him to die. She encouraged, directed, aided, and attempted to aid this mentally ill woman to shoot him.
Although Celeste claimed she wouldn't benefit from Stephen's money if he were gone, prosecutors said that was a lie. She would get everything that was bought during the couple's marriage, including the multi-million-dollar mansion. The prosecution then called witnesses to show how Stephen's money was the only thing Celeste cared about.
On a couple of different occasions, like the day he was shot, she called in a frenzy trying to get me put onto his account. And I just told her we couldn't do that.
Stephen's grown daughter said she was appalled because Celeste was giddy at her father's funeral.
She thought it was just hysterical. That's how she was taking the funeral. I mean, like, ha ha ha, he's gone, thank you, Lord. You know, finally he's gone, and now I got his money.
A crucial part to the prosecution's case was to prove that Celeste and Tracy had a sexual relationship. Several witnesses described the way the women acted when they were together.
I saw Celeste nuzzle Tracy's ear, and I saw them kissing.
Prosecutors then called their star witness, Tracy Tarleton, to the stand. Tracy told the jury about love letters Celeste had written to her and a card that said, "To the one I love."
She expressed to me that she wanted the sexual relationship with me, which I also wanted.
Tracy then went on to describe how she shot Stephen Beard because she thought Celeste loved her and needed her help. She said she finally broke her silence after she realized it had all been a lie.
It weighed heavier and heavier on me that I had shot him because I thought he was this monster.
The biggest hurdle was that our star witness was going to be the person who pulled the trigger, and a person who, by her own admission, had alcohol problems and some mental health issues.
Prosecutors knew that winning this case against Celeste wasn't going to be easy. So they did more. After Tracy stepped down from the stand, prosecutors called a surprise witness, actually 2 surprise witnesses, Celeste's twin daughters, Jennifer and Christina. What they were about to say would shock the entire courtroom. Up next, a mother versus her own daughters in a courtroom showdown, as the trial of Celeste Beard Johnson reaches its dramatic conclusion. Want more on the case? Go to investigationdiscovery.com/PaulaZahn and view more exclusive interviews and behind-the-scenes video. Celeste Beard Johnson was on trial for the murder of her millionaire husband, Stephen Beard. The state star witness, Tracy Tarleton, finished her testimony, and now the jury was about to hear from the 2 people closest to Celeste, her twin daughters. Only the girls weren't there to defend their mother. They volunteered to testify against her. For more than 3 days, jurors listened as twins Jennifer and Christina Beard took the stand to testify against Celeste, their mother.
They were afraid of her. They believed she had killed Steve, they felt certain of that, and they felt vulnerable to her.
Jennifer told jurors that Celeste never loved their adoptive father, that her mother was trying to get rid of Stephen Beard long before she met Tracy Tarleton.
She was poisoning him with sleeping pills and other kind of medication. She was giving him too much alcohol, giving him Everclear, where he thought he was drinking a regular, normal proof brand of alcohol.
She would say, why wouldn't he die already?
She had recorded.
I was depressed, you damn little bitch. I was sick.
Christina said she taped the conversations months before. Her original plan was to play them back to her mother to show her just how abusive she could be. What she ended up capturing was a bombshell. Celeste on tape confessing to putting a hit on Tracy Tarleton.
I hired somebody to kill Tracy.
That clearly showed that she believed that Tracy Tarleton had some information that she didn't want the authorities to get a hold of, that she felt that Tracy Tarleton would be the linchpin to a case against Celeste Beard, and she was not going to let that happen.
To back up Celeste's own words that she was in a conspiracy to kill Tracy, prosecutors called the woman that Celeste had gone to for help, former friend Donna Goodson. Prosecutors gave Donna immunity for her testimony.
Did I know anyone that could get rid of Tracy?
What did you tell her?
I said anybody could get rid of anybody for the right amount.
It just read Celeste all over, you know? Sneaky, conniving, bitch.
Not guilty.
Tracy, we believe the evidence will show you, shot Stephen Beard for her own selfish and sick reasons.
Dick DeGowran began by telling jurors that this was a case of fatal attraction, that Tracy shot Stephen, hoping that once he was gone, she could have Celeste to herself.
Tracy Tarleton didn't need to be told or asked or commanded to kill or convinced to kill Stephen Beard. She did it on her own. She did it for her own evil motives, and that is to get rid of Stephen Beard so she would have Celeste to herself. Because in her fevered imagination, she and Celeste would then become lovers and be together for the rest of their lives. That's the craziness of Tracy Tarleton.
To discredit her testimony, the defense called Tracy's own doctors. They all agreed that Tracy's mental problems were so severe she could have imagined a romantic relationship with Celeste. It was a point that DeGuerin wanted to make clear to the jury.
Tracy Tarleton is insane. She's criminally insane. She's delusional. She's mean. She's a lesbian who goes after women whether they want a relationship or not. And she's violent, and she's proven that.
The defense argued that because Tracy was crazy, jurors couldn't believe a word she said. As for the twins, DeGuerin said they had their own motivation to lie.
Money. And
to this earth, because that whole time the twins were doing all this stuff behind my back, I'm thinking that they're mad at me because, you know, I yelled at them. I don't even have a clue, you know, that they're trying to tie me in with Stephen's shooting.
With Celeste out of the way, Jennifer and Christina, along with Stephen's 3 older children, would split the Beard fortune. The way Celeste tells it, she was victimized by her own daughters.
Well, first they tried to encourage me to kill myself, and then when that didn't work, they hired a lawyer to try to have me committed to a mental hospital. That didn't work. The only recourse they had was to have me found guilty for his shooting so that they could get the money.
Celeste admits she was a bad mother, and that's why she thinks her daughters turned on her.
I was overindulgent. I lied for them. So when they lied on the stand, you know, I have myself to blame for that because I'm the one that taught them to lie.
Her attorney claims the tapes that Christina played in court, the tapes that supposedly captured Celeste saying that she hired someone to kill Tracy, were taken out of context.
the worst part of the tapes was where Celeste was screaming at her daughter, who wouldn't mind and who knew how to make Celeste mad and to push her buttons. And those were really the most dramatic ones. There was a woman named Donna Goodson and suggested to Celeste that she could take care of Tracy Tarleton.
Well, people, and everybody's waiting because this has been for Travis County, basically our trial of the century. And they came back and they announced their verdict of guilty.
The next day, Celeste was back in court for her sentencing. Her daughter Christina once again took the stand and spoke directly to her mother.
He let you into his home, loved you, honored, obeyed you, and you violated him and murdered him. You are guilty.
Celeste is serving 2 life terms at this women's prison in Texas. 1 for capital murder and 1 for injury to the elderly. She still claims she's innocent.
I don't think that I deserve to spend the rest of my life in prison for a crime that I did not commit.
At this point, all of Celeste's appeals have been exhausted, but her attorney is still hoping new evidence surfaces.
I don't think I'll rest until I see something done for Celeste. She shouldn't be where she is. I blame myself in part for not having her testify, but I also have to blame Tracy Tarleton and those evil twins.
I want them to know that I did not have anything to do with Tracy hurting Stephen, and that I love them. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for not being the mother that they needed me to be.
Celeste hasn't seen Jennifer nor Christina since the day she was sentenced.
I love them. I will always love them. But I don't understand how they could do this to me. I just wanted them to be my friends. And I know I said ugly things about them, call them evil, and I'm sorry.
To her, every bad thing that's happened to her has been because someone has been out to get her, or someone misunderstood what she was doing. It's all about her.
Stephen Beard's daughter, Becky, says she'll never get over the anger she feels towards Celeste for taking her father away.
I hate you. You deserve what you got. And you deserve more, you know? And thank God you won't be out on the streets to hurt any other man.
Celeste Beard Johnson won't be eligible for parole until she's 80 years old. She's still married to her 5th husband, Cole Johnson. As for Tracy Tarleton, in her deal with prosecutors, she got a 20-year sentence. And for now, she's in a prison right down the road from Celeste. I'm Paula Zahn. See you here next time when we are back on the case. Want more on the case? Go to investigationdiscovery.com/Paula Zahn and view more exclusive interviews and behind-the-scenes video.
And then when they said I was guilty, I just was stoic because I was so hurt. I just wanted to die. And I was like, there's no way I'm gonna let anybody in here see what it has done to me.
Everywhere you go, Big Brother is watching.
You can't make out the face of the person, but I can see that it's a male.
What was caught on camera on a hot Texas night shocked even the most hardened detectives.
The first thought that I had was, who could do such a thing to a woman?
This one hit very close to home. Everyone that was involved in this investigation, they were touched by it.
A beautiful young woman's life is cruelly cut short.
Just had a way about her that lit up the room. She was very genuine, caring, giving.
Left behind, a trail of videotape.
You're yelling, don't go with that guy, don't go with that guy, because we're seeing the beginning, we already have the end.
The killer was caught on camera, but could they catch him? How did you even prepare yourself to see that video? Once you knew what had happened to you, the police come to visit you. I'm Paula Zahn, on the case in New York. And tonight we make our way down to the Lone Star State. It was a ruthless crime with an innocent victim who touched the hearts of every investigator on the case. But using state-of-the-art technology and some old-fashioned police work, detectives set out on a mission to bring a killer to justice. A fireball lights up a dark Texas night. It was a dramatic moment, captured on the surveillance video of a nearby business. But what it really meant wouldn't become clear until someone called 911 the following morning.
Carrollton 911, address of your emergency.
Ma'am, this lady just spotted a burnt body over here. We at Keller Springs Road.
The description of what the caller saw, a woman's burnt body, startled the 911 operator.
I'm sorry, what just happened, sir?
Then the caller repeated the shocking news.
There's a burnt female body over here on the other side of this damn thing.
I don't want anyone to touch anything, sir.
Oh, I'm not going to touch.
Okay, keep everybody away from it.
Detective Greg Frade, a 23-year veteran police officer, responded to the call. It was a hot Texas day when Detective Frade got to the crime scene, but he felt a chill from what had happened the night before.
Well, when you desecrate the body, that, to me, is evil.
The body was near a busy road, just a 5-minute drive from the police station, but tucked away out of plain sight. Detective Frade reasoned that the perpetrator chose the spot carefully, thinking it was far away from any watching eyes.
And this is where it happens. Just right down there. He's low enough, he figures he can't be seen. He's got enough of the trees that no one's going to see him back behind there, and the business is closed.
Well, there was, of course, a lot of questions. You know, this is Carrollton, Texas. We don't have stuff like that happens in Carroll, Texas very often. The first thought that I had was who could do such a thing to a woman. It was very, very gruesome.
Out towards the parking lot.
It was a huge break. A security camera had captured an incredible scene. When detectives looked at the tape, they saw a disturbing but clean view of what happened.
A male person exited the driver's side of the vehicle, opened the passenger door, removed something from the passenger side of the vehicle, and pulled it over into the grass. Once he got the subject to the grass, there was a big boulder of light, and you could see the person running from the light and get back inside the vehicle.
Right after the explosion, the car sped away. It was 4:06 a.m. Police had now pinpointed the exact time the body was burned.
The first reaction was initial shock. Once we saw something that dramatic on tape, this was a huge key. This was a great starting point for our investigation.
Investigators went over the tape with a fine-tooth comb, gathering key pieces of evidence.
Obviously, I've got video of a person, which it's far away, you can't make out the face of the person, but I can see that it's a male. I can see that he has a white short sleeve shirt on, shorts that are past his knees. We see a vehicle. As it's backing out, you can see the taillight package of the vehicle.
Detective Todd Burnside used enhanced video technology to analyze the tape. He was looking for something, anything, that would help identify the car. Its unique taillights would be a key.
What we did is we kind of zoomed in on it, applied some filters. You can see where the position of the rear brake, the backup lights are. You can see the shape.
Detectives went online and were able to match the shape and the specific light pattern to a Saturn. Now that investigators knew what type of car had been used, they ran a check to see if there were any reports involving a Saturn on the night of the murder. It paid off. In their database, they came across a curious entry from the night before. Around 5 a.m., about an hour after the body was burned, Officer Otis Koo was out patrolling an area hit by a rash of car thefts.
When I rolled into that particular apartment complex, I started moving towards the back. It was basically one of those parking areas that you don't normally see cars parked in.
What he saw was a red Saturn parked in an area reserved for oversized vehicles. Officer Koo pulled his cruiser to a stop.
When I got out and got a closer look at the vehicle, I did notice the odor of gasoline coming from the vehicle and a red 1-gallon gas can sitting in the driver's seat. Something still didn't just feel right about it. So when I got back in the car, I typed in some notes about what I'd seen. The 1-gallon gas can in the driver's seat, the odor of gasoline, the hood being cold to the touch, and cleared it with dispatch at that point.
Officer Koo also noted the red Saturn's license plate was framed by the words, "Angels are watching over me." He then called in the plate number. At the time, the unoccupied car just seemed out of place. But now, Officer Koo's report of a red Saturn that smelled of gas was too much of a coincidence to ignore.
We immediately sent a team back to the apartment complex where Officer Koo was, but the vehicle was gone.
The Saturn had disappeared, but 2 items were retrieved.
At the scene, they find a burnt sock and the gas cap.
Police immediately ran the license plate from Koo's report.
Running that license plate, we now find that the car belongs to Glenn Goodwin in Arlington, Texas.
Within just a few hours, using a combination of high-tech research and basic detective work, investigators had identified the suspect's car, found a license plate number, and were on their way to confront an assailant. Coming up, police find a victim, not a suspect, and the investigation takes a dramatic turn.
And I got on my knees and I thought, please God, don't let that be her. Don't let this be real.
The Carrollton, Texas police had never seen anything like it. A woman's body had been dumped and then burned beyond recognition. They didn't know who she was, but then they got their first big break. Working with video from a security camera, detectives identified the car of the man responsible. The investigation was about to take off. Detective Fraid and his team now had a suspect. The car belonged to Glenn Goodwin of Arlington. They drove to his house expecting a confrontation.
When we get there, I knock on the door and Mrs. Goodwin answers and I ask her the question.
And they said, do you know anybody who owns a red Saturn? And I said, oh yes, that's my daughter. She goes to UNT.
Do you have it here? Well, no, my daughter in college up in Denton, it's her car.
They said, well, it's registered to Glenn Goodwin. I said, well, you know, we're parents. We buy the kids a car. We pay the insurance.
The red Saturn belonged to Glenn and Peggy Goodwin's daughter, Melanie. Detective Fraid's thinking turned on a dime.
So at that instant, I knew that I had now to make a 180 turn, that it was my victim whose car we had, not the suspect. And it was more than likely Melanie Goodwin's body that we had found that morning in Carrollton.
And they asked for a picture, and I went back to my bedroom and got a picture, and I got on my knees, and I thought, please God, don't let that be her. Don't let this be real.
Fraid was not prepared to tell the Goodwins their daughter was dead, even though his gut instinct told him she was his victim.
At one point, Miss Goodwin does ask me, you have a body? And I tell her yes, and it's burnt beyond recognition. And I tell her it's a female, but I don't know if it's your daughter.
Detective Fraid still needed more information to make a positive identification. And Peggy and Glenn Goodwin were beginning to sense something was terribly wrong. At what point during the time that investigators were talking to you and they asked you for a picture of Melanie, did it hit you that she, in fact, was the victim?
They were asking us questions, and they kept talking about a ring, and I kept saying, how do you have a ring? Where do you have a ring?
The investigators had the ring at that point?
No, he didn't have it with him.
He described it?
Yes, and it on the inside it had written con cariño, and in Spanish that means with love. And I knew that was on the ring. As soon as I was able to identify that ring, then I knew it was Melanie.
I knew right then that she was dead. I just had this sense.
Were you numb at that point, or did you feel rage?
It's almost, you don't know what to do. And sometimes I still feel that. You know, you don't know whether to leave or to stay or to cry or to, you just don't know what to do.
Once you were able to absorb the initial shock that Melanie was dead, at what point did you want to know what had happened to her?
I don't need to know the details. I don't want to know the details.
At this point, the victim was no longer a Jane Doe. Goodwin's daughter, Melanie, had been a gifted and popular college sophomore.
She just was beautiful. But it wasn't that. She would open her mouth and you would be like, she's beautiful, she's cool, she's one of those kind of people you just want to sit and talk to. And she would want to talk to you.
Melanie was an aspiring actress and singer who went to college to pursue her passion.
Dreams are only foolish if we don't believe in them. Do you believe in your dream?
She was one of those people who never met a stranger.
She's your best friend as soon as you meet her, really welcoming, loves to know about people, listen to people. She's real friendly.
Well, that was exciting, wasn't it? We hope you enjoyed the show.
Melanie's parents and friends put a face on the victim for investigators. Her spirit and personality touched everyone involved in trying to solve the crime.
The all-American girl, a great family, You know, every death is sad, but Melanie just had so much ahead of her.
Detective Freight and other investigators pursued the case with a passion. They tried to piece together a timeline of events the night of the murder. Peggy Goodwin, a software programmer, gave them a good start. She accessed Melanie's credit card activity online.
I looked up her account and I said, well, her last transaction was at the Quick Trip at 1:40 in the morning.
A purchase was made with Melanie's credit card at a convenience store just hours before her body was burned. Whether it was Melanie or someone else who used the credit card, it was a critical clue. Peggy kept digging online.
And then I said, and here's her phone records. These, and I got, because the kids, we all had these accounts together, and I was on all their stuff.
With the phone records came the case's first suspect.
One of her last phone calls was to Ollie, her boyfriend. They said, where does he live? And I said, I don't know, let me call him. And they said, well, don't tell him we're coming, you know, just get the address.
Ollie was short for Jose Alejandro, a student at the same college as Melanie, who she'd been dating for 8 months.
On the evening of September 25th, we contacted Ollie at the university. We asked him to come to the North Texas Police Department and speak with us.
When they took me down to the station and they told me, like, what had happened, I didn't even realize it at first, like, that when she said, you know, she's deceased, I didn't understand.
You could tell that his initial reaction, the initial shock of hearing that Melanie was dead, was just very difficult for him to believe. He kept asking us over and over what had happened.
Even though he was emotional about her death, police couldn't rule him out as a suspect. They checked for evidence.
Detective Fernandez asked Ollie to take his shirt off. He's doing that to look for trace evidence, blood, anything that would lead us to believe that he'd been in a scuffle or a fight.
There were no marks on Ollie's body, no signs of a struggle.
The boyfriend unfortunately becomes a suspect, and he gets interviewed pretty harshly to see if he is indeed part of what we're investigating.
He said he last saw her at 4:45 the previous afternoon. He said he took her to the university parking lot to pick up her vehicle so that she could go to work.
During his interrogation, Ollie said Melanie had been working late at a promotional event for an energy drink, and that he spoke with her at 1:40 a.m. as she was driving home.
She called him and told him that she was on her way home, and asked him if he needed anything, and he asked her to stop by Quick Trip to get him a bag of Cheetos and chocolate milk.
That was confirmed at that time. He was speaking to her.
With the credit card and the phone records that Melanie's mother gave police, two key parts of Ollie's story checked out: the purchase at the Quick Trip and the 1:40 a.m. phone call.
She was just telling me to leave the door open, that she was on her way, that she was at the store. Basically, the main point was, you know, leave the door open, that she was coming home to me.
But Melanie never made it home. An innocent late-night stop for snacks had become the last stop of her life. Coming up, Melanie Goodwin's fateful stop at the Quick Trip.
They're yelling, don't go with that guy, don't go with that guy, because we're seeing the beginning, we already have the end.
Detectives were fanning out, retracing the last steps of 19-year-old Melanie Goodwin. They got some solid leads that would bring them to the Quick Trip convenience store, and a remarkable discovery. The store's high-tech security system included 4 surveillance cameras.
The one great thing about the Quick Trip, it's a fairly new store, so it also had, along with the video, it also has audio.
Detectives reviewed the tapes. They were a treasure trove of new evidence, and they quickly identified Melanie in the store.
I had come back from the Goodwins, and I was pretty sure that, from what they explained, that it was Melanie.
Here she is walking in and going to the cooler to get the chocolate milk.
Once I saw the video, we were positive because the clothing matched with what was on the body when we found the body.
Incredibly, the fire hadn't burned all of Melanie's clothing. Then this man's clothing caught their eye. It looked like a match to the person who burned the body in the other video. It was the suspect, caught on camera again.
It's the same long shorts, the same similar white shirt. We're positive it's him, so we have no doubt.
As police watch the tape, they see the man wandering around the store before Melanie arrives and watch as he targets her once she enters.
You see him walking up and down the front of the store before she even arrives. And when she arrives, you see him, just eyeballing her the whole time.
The tape also shows he was in the store for more than an hour before Melanie made her fateful snack stop, bothering the clerk the whole time.
And I think the guy, for a while, walked around and he said, "Hey, you mind if I sleep here?" And I thought, why would you ask somebody? I'm at a hotel.
He seemed like a vagrant, down on his luck. He approached Melanie while she was shopping.
So he keeps walking up and down watching her, and then he'll make a beeline to her here in a minute.
The bits and pieces I caught, I think he approached her for a ride somewhere, and I think she was a little loath or reluctant to give him one.
In the back of the store, in the reflection on the glass, the man can be seen talking with Melanie. Even after digitally enhancing the tape, the conversation was barely audible. But detectives listened over and over again. It was a painstaking effort, but they were finally able to figure out that the man was giving Melanie a sob story.
You hear him say, "You can just drop me off on Teasley, I'll walk the rest of the way." You hear her say, "No, no." And he's just persistent, coming up with excuses.
When Melanie's at the counter, the man leaves the store. This is the purchase, a perfect match to the credit card information her mother had found online. And her cell phone call confirms the details of her boyfriend Ollie's story.
So you can hear her talking to him on the phone. So that helps confirm for Ollie exactly what he had explained to us, so that clears him.
And it makes the man with the baggy shorts and t-shirt a suspected killer.
It's an eerie thing to watch when you know what's coming. It seems silly, but you're kind of saying, it's too late, but you're yelling, "Don't go with that guy, don't go with that guy," because we're seeing the beginning, we already have the end. It's such a helpless feeling knowing that she's going to her death.
After Melanie walks through the door, the man is seen trailing behind her. There is no footage to show what happened next. Melanie had already told the man she would not give him a ride. Her parents believe there's only one explanation for what happened next.
I think he forced her into her car, the little Saturn that she drives, that she drove.
And we just think that he approached her and shoved her back there, grabbing her keys, and got in.
She was so vulnerable. There really wasn't much she could have done to reverse this, was there?
No, she did everything right. She stopped at a very brightly lit store, well-traveled, had a lot of customers coming in and out, had her keys in her hand when she was leaving the store. She felt she was safe.
No matter how it played out, detectives now focused on identifying the new suspect. It didn't take long. The clerk had allowed him to use the phone at the checkout counter.
Well, we know that he had used the phone several times and find that he had called a number, I believe it was 7, 8 times, and that was his girlfriend, according to the cashier who had heard the conversations, and the girlfriend even called back.
Police traced the calls and found the woman.
Comes back to a female. We go to her location and interview her.
She told them the man she had spoken with on the phone from the Quick Trip that night, a man seen in the videotape, was her ex-boyfriend, a 20-year-old named Ernesto Reyes. Police quickly discovered that Reyes was a small-time crook and drug user with a rap sheet and a reputation.
He had lost a lot of relationships, and I don't know what all that stemmed from, but he sounded like he had burned a lot of bridges with his friends and his relatives.
Reyes had no home, no car, no job, and few friends. The night of the murder, he was down on his luck, way down.
Ernesto was having a very bad night. His mother had kicked him out of the house for various reasons and criminal reasons. His girlfriend had taken him in, and she had kicked him out the night before because he had taken her car without permission. He had no friends that were going to help him out.
In less than 24 hours, police had made remarkable progress. Both the victim and the suspect had been identified. But the case was far from closed. What happened in the 90 minutes from this moment, when Melanie Goodwin left the Quick Trip convenience store, and this moment, when Ernesto Reyes ruthlessly dumped her body and set it on fire, was still a mystery.
There's 90 minutes that I don't know where he was and what he was doing.
But the urgent priority was to bring Reyes into custody. Police knew that wouldn't be easy. According to his girlfriend, Ernesto Reyes had skipped town. Coming up, more security video surfaces, and the manhunt for a fugitive murder suspect shifts into high gear.
We were pretty sure we were not going to be able to find him.
Less than 24 hours after finding the burned body of Melanie Goodwin, police had zeroed in on a suspect, but he was nowhere to be found. And when detectives interrogated his ex-girlfriend, she told him that he had left town and by now was across the border in Mexico.
We were too far behind in the investigation to catch him at the border, so we knew he had already crossed. We were pretty sure we were not going to be able to find him.
When it comes to tracking down fugitives, Mexico can be a black hole for investigators. Even a possible killer like Ernesto Reyes can elude capture once they make it south of the border. Texas police reached out to the U.S. Marshal's Office for help.
We've got investigators that know what they're doing, know how to hit the ground running, and they are successful.
While U.S. Marshals pursued the suspect, detectives in Carrollton had their hands full trying to build a case against Reyes. His ex-girlfriend was a source of many important leads, and now she had another. It came when detectives asked her what Ernesto Reyes was doing in Carrollton on the night of the murder.
This is a kid who grew up in Denton, Texas, has been there his entire life. All his record, both good and bad, come back to Denton, Texas. We ask her, how is he tied to Carrollton? She explains that he has a friend from Denton who moved to Carrollton.
His name was Donovan Young, a petty thief who had been in trouble before. Authorities brought Young in for questioning.
I was never in the car. I could put that on my life, I could put that on my mama, and I could put that on any son that I ever had if I do have a son. I can, honestly.
Well, I hope that's
true. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Young told detectives that around 3 a.m., Ernesto Reyes knocked on his door and said he had something to show him.
Ernesto takes him to a red Saturn. Mr. Young says that he can see a female's body in the back seat with the panties down. He says her eyes are open, he's not sure. And Ernesto tells him that she's dead and that he killed her.
Young told the detectives that Reyes was strapped for cash and wanted some help getting rid of the body. Young gave him a gas can and a little bit of money.
This guy was telling him I'm not gonna have no part of it. That's what I was telling him, and then, you know.
Yeah, but then you give him the gas money, you give him the gas can.
I gave him the money. It was partially for gas and...
Right, but then don't you think that makes you part of it? When you here's a gas can to go burn that body, I ain't got nothing to do with it.
Young would still contend he wasn't guilty. But when police pressed Young for more information, he told them that after the murder, Reyes tried twice to torch Melanie's car, but botched the job both times.
Ernesto thinks from watching TV that if he takes his sock off and stick it in the gas portal of the car and light that on fire, that the car is going to blow up. And then it burns out, and he leaves the sock behind, and he leaves all the windows up when he tries to burn it, and the fire puts itself out because of lack of oxygen.
The Saturn was found not far from where Melanie was abducted. Detectives pored over every inch of the vehicle, looking for evidence. The seats were scorched, but because the windows were up, the damage wasn't extensive. The exterior undamaged, and the license plate, framed by the words, "Angels are watching over me," was still intact. After the car was set on fire, Young said he then gave Reyes a lift.
I asked him probably 6 times why he didn't call the police, and he just really would never come up with an answer.
Police searched Young's car and turned up Melanie's camera. On the memory card were 2 haunting shots Ernesto Reyes took of himself just minutes after the murder.
From that camera, there's a timestamp that shows Ernesto Reyes taking a picture of himself outside of Donovan Young's apartment.
After getting the new information supplied by Donovan Young and the photographs, police began piecing together Reyes's action that night. They canvassed the route between Young's apartment and the spot where Melanie's body was discovered. They found something almost immediately.
This is the gas station where Reyes attempted to get gasoline to burn the body. This is right next door to Donovan Young's apartment.
Incredibly, Ernesto Reyes was caught on camera again. A surreal account of the crime was played out, scene by scene, in surveillance video. Here, Reyes can be seen backing up, presumably so no one would see Melanie's body in the back seat. A witness reported seeing red stains on the front of his shirt.
He puts a gas can down. He's knocking on a door to try and get someone to take his money to pay for gas. No one comes, but in the video, you see him take his shirt off, turn it around and put it back on because there's blood on it. So now his shirt is inside out so he can hide the blood.
When the knocks go unanswered, Reyes drives away. He was able to find gas at another station, and once again, the whole thing was recorded.
This is the gas station where Reyes was able to purchase the gas that he eventually burned Melanie Goodwin's body with. Ernesto comes in, puts the gas can on the counter of the store, pays for his gas, goes out to the pump, pumps the gas, and leaves. All the time frame on the video matches basically what Donovan Young told us.
The videos were helping police build a solid circumstantial case against Reyes and Donovan Young.
Melanie's case was this huge puzzle for us, and luckily, God gave us all of the pieces that we needed to put this puzzle together.
And the biggest piece of the puzzle was still missing, Reyes himself. But U.S. Marshals working in Mexico were closing in on him. They spotted Reyes at a home owned by his grandparents, but they couldn't move on it because of a problem with an arrest warrant.
The waiting period was very, very hard, so by the time we finally had the warrant signed, it was devastating to find out he'd moved on.
Marshals picked up his trail again at another house in the same village in central Mexico.
And we got really, really lucky because one of the residences that they had just pulled up in front of, he happened to walk right out the door right after they pulled up.
Ernesto Reyes was handcuffed and taken into custody. But Mexico, which has no capital punishment, refused to extradite him unless Texas prosecutors promised to waive the death penalty.
You know, I'm a believer in the death penalty, but at the same time, you know, I respect every government's right to set the conditions for sending somebody back. I'd much rather have Mr. Reyes back serving life in prison than having him free in Mexico because we insisted on the death penalty.
8 months after Melanie Goodwin's murder, Ernesto Reyes was extradited to Texas and charged with murder. Coming up, the Goodwins face their daughter's accused killer in court.
To sit across the aisle and look at this person, you just wanted to jump the rail and kill him.
And they share a dramatic moment with his mother.
I got this beautiful daughter.
Want more on the case? Go to investigationdiscovery.com/PaulaZahn and view more exclusive interviews and behind-the-scenes video. Ernesto Reyes was a 20-year-old with a troubled past. On the night Melanie Goodwin was murdered, he was tracked at 4 different locations by surveillance cameras. He was the prime suspect, but he eluded police and fled to Mexico. After his capture, he was sent back to Texas to stand trial. The Dallas courtroom was packed when Ernesto Reyes was brought in for the first day of the trial. Sitting nearby that morning and every morning after that were Melanie's parents.
But you knew You were going to have to look at that video at some point.
We had to be there for Melanie. That was it. We had to be there for her. And to sit across the aisle and look at this person slouching in his chair with no remorse, no reaction, nothing, was unbearable. You just wanted to jump the rail and kill him.
Prosecutors portrayed Reyes as a cold-blooded killer, a predator who was brought to justice in part because his actions were caught on camera.
The technology really helped us out. The video obviously was tremendous. When you have a photo or a picture or a video of somebody going into court, it's irrefutable. At every step, from beginning to end, it's always Reyes.
Prosecutors presented their case on TV monitor, showing the jury step by step how the crime played out. Reyes stalking Melanie at the convenience store, turning his shirt inside out to conceal blood, buying gas, burning the body. The last footage was too graphic for many spectators. Some turned away, some left the courtroom. Somehow, Melanie's parents sat through it all.
We knew that the video of the fireball was going to happen. And that was very hard. It was just to, watch the video and watch Ernesto Reyes, how he did with Melanie. It was just very hard.
How did you even prepare yourself to see that video?
You never prepare for anything like this.
Prosecutors used the autopsy report to describe what wasn't captured by cameras. The forensic evidence revealed a gruesome crime. Prosecutors described a violent sexual assault. They said Melanie put up a fierce struggle, but eventually succumbed to a much bigger and stronger attacker.
She fought as best she could, given her size. She fought as best she could, and I'm convinced she actually got out of that car, and I think she started to run. She was found without her shoes. They weren't in her car, they weren't on her feet, and I think she ran. And he got her, and he dragged her back. And there is blood on the outside of her car. I believe that the sexual assault took place in the back of her car. You can find blood in the back seat of her car. It was a violent death. It was a very torturous death. This young lady had contusions. She had bruises on the front of her face, on her forehead, on the top of her head, and the back of her head. She had a very large contusion on her chest, which was completely unrelated from the strangulation, which really spoke to him probably as having had his knee in her chest while he was strangling her to death.
The state star witness was Reyes's friend, Donovan Young. He had pled guilty to tampering with evidence and received an 8-year sentence in exchange for his testimony.
I came outside and he was just standing there. He looked kind of scared. I asked him, what was going on. He had told me he had did something bad.
It was Young who provided the gas can and gas money to burn the body. Reyes's defense argued that he was responsible for much more.
Why was Donovan Young so motivated to do everything he could do to assist in the destruction of this evidence? You're going to have to ask yourself whether or not Donovan Young has blood on his hands.
Reyes's defense presented a version of events where Melanie willingly gave him a ride, did drugs with him, and then consented to sex. His lawyers argued they picked up Donovan Young later and that he strangled Melanie after she rebuffed his advances. The defense said Young then forced Reyes at gunpoint to buy gas and burn the body.
How hurtful was it for the two of you when you heard the theory put forth that she willingly got into the car with this man and that this young man suggested, of course the man ultimately charged with her murder, that she wanted to buy drugs and they had done drugs together, and that's what happened that night?
And she was a Christian person, a Christian girl, and for them to suggest that she would even consider doing anything with Ernesto Reyes is just absurd.
How dare they? How dare they even insinuate that about my daughter?
The autopsy report showed Melanie had not used drugs, and defense attorneys offered no witnesses nor documentation to support their claims. Reyes did not take the stand, but his lawyer did play an interview he gave to a local television station.
No, I'm not a killer. I've never been a killer. I've never wanted to be a killer. I'm not a manslaughter. I was just there at the wrong place, hanging with the wrong people.
Jurors were not moved. After deliberating for only 2 hours, they found Ernesto Reyes guilty of the rape and murder of Melanie Goodwin. He was sentenced to life in prison. Reyes still insists he's innocent, and Donovan Young is the one who killed Melanie. He spoke with us from a maximum security unit in an East Texas prison.
He killed her with his hands. I was right there, but I wasn't in that state of mind. I was on drugs. So that's why this is why I'm here, because I ran. I panicked. I didn't know what to do.
But Reyes is at a loss to explain why he, not Young, is the one who appears in all of that incriminating surveillance video.
And she was there and he was there. But all of a sudden, every time I come out on camera, it's always just me. You know, that doesn't make sense. I guess he was at the right place at the right time, and I was at the wrong place at the wrong time.
And Reyes offered these words to Melanie's parents.
I'm sorry. If you find it in your heart to forgive me and Donovan, that's on them. Why am I apologizing to them? For not doing anything. For not standing up, for knowing what was going on at the time when Donovan did it.
After the verdict, Melanie's father was finally able to address the court and Reyes.
And while many might think that this trial will bring closure, it will not. I'll never hold Melanie in my arms again, and I'll never hear her say again, "Daddy, I love you."
Then, in a moving encounter outside the courtroom, the devastated mother of Ernesto Reyes approached Melanie's parents.
And she looked at us and, I'm so sorry, and just hugged us, and we hugged her, and Glenn spoke to her, and she was not sorry at what had just happened to her son. She was sorry at what her son had done to our daughter.
I told me because I got violent too. I got violent.
When you embraced Mrs. Reyes, you spoke to her in Spanish. What did you say to her?
I said that I was sorry as well. I thanked her for coming up to us and her sincerity and in her telling us that she was sorry.
I've never heard of a moment like that ever happening in the wake of such a horrendous trial. It's really quite extraordinary that you were able to find the strength to even approach her.
And see, we find that surprising that anybody's surprised. That, to me, is what we should have done. That's who we are, and that's who Melanie was. Compassionate, caring human beings.
Did it lift your burden at all?
No.
No.
None of this changes the end of our day. Melanie's gone.
I must be returning to my kingdom now. Farewell, and may dwarves and elves live forever in friendship.
We never want to take another family picture because a piece of our family is missing. It hurts just as much today, all the way to my core, as it did day one. And I don't think that pain is ever going to go away. We're just focusing our energy in a positive direction.
Melanie's parents hold fundraising concerts for a scholarship program named in her honor. The money goes to at-risk kids who, like Melanie, have a love for theater. I'm Paula Zahn. Join us next time when we're back on the case. Want more on the case? Go to investigationdiscovery.com/Paula Zahn and view more exclusive interviews and behind-the-scenes video.
I see a twinkle in your eye when you talk about her, and everybody said she had this magic of being able to make everybody laugh, being able to make everybody smile.
She really liked to make people laugh, and she really was compassionate and sincere about doing good.
It was vicious, incredibly cruel. A devoted social worker beaten, bitten, and stabbed.
Who the hell could have wanted to kill her? I didn't understand why.
An entire community wanted answers and justice.
This was very notorious murder. There was a lot of pressure to make an arrest quickly.
If they were looking for a villain to fit the crime, they found one in Roy Brown.
He kind of resembled Charlie Manson. He looked guilty.
He was angry. He said, I'm innocent, I didn't do this, this is wrong.
He was dying. He had this liver disease. He was all yellow and gaunt.
It was a different kind of death sentence. Was he really innocent? Could he prove it from behind bars? The clock was ticking.
I'm gonna die here. I'm gonna fight every day that I'm alive to prove myself innocent.
Once you knew what had happened to you, the police come to visit you.
I'm Paula Zahn on the case in New York City. Tonight, we're in Auburn, New York, investigating a murder that took place back in 1991. The small farming communities throughout the region were shocked by the violent crime and outraged that one of their own had been the victim. There was a cry for justice. The killer had to be caught, and caught fast. It was 1 a.m. on a clear spring night when an emergency call went out to firefighters in Cayuga County, New York. A farmhouse was up in flames.
The whole front of the house was on fire.
Where was Sabina? That was the big question. Where was Sabina? She wasn't there.
Social worker Sabina Kolakowski lived in the house. She wasn't inside, but the morning light unveiled a grisly scene.
Something caught my eye, and at first, I thought it was a deer or something like that. It was like a beige color.
It was Sabina's naked and horribly beaten body, just yards from the house.
And I looked, and I had to walk a little bit farther when I realized it was her, it was a body.
It was a brutal, bewildering crime.
She was bubbly, cheerful, friendly, all the good words. Everybody loved her. Who the hell could have wanted to kill her? She had no enemies. Who could hurt such a person? Who would want to? I didn't understand why.
Investigators quickly discovered Sabina had recently broken up with her boyfriend, Ron Bench. But things ended on good terms. Ron even let her stay in the farmhouse they'd shared, which was owned by his family. Certainly, there was nothing in that to explain the viciousness of the attack.
It was just a horrible, horrible crime. I mean, this young lady had been beaten and bruised, and it was just horrible.
In the tiny farming community of Aurelius, New York, the murder was big news.
This was out in the hinterlands, in the farmland, so it was just totally unexpected. Things like that just don't occur in our area, so it was pretty shocking.
For the local police and fire departments, the crime scene was overwhelming.
We realized that we need help on this. We were a small organization. At the scene, we've got a totally nude body, covered in blood, about 25 yards up this grass laneway.
Officials were able to determine that the fire had been set intentionally. Traces of gas were found near the porch. It looked like an effort to hide a crime inside. But curiously, Sabina's body was found outside. Then Detective Co. Ecker made what looked like an important discovery.
We discovered there was a bite mark on the body. Don't know exactly what went on in the house, but if somebody sustained bite marks on their body, to me that's maybe some sort of perverted sexual act inside the house.
Near Sabina's body was more evidence: a red t-shirt and a boot print, roughly size 13.
She probably came out of that house either wearing no more than the t-shirt or carrying the t-shirt to shield herself. There's no evidence between the house and the laneway other than her t-shirt. There's some signs of that's where she was murdered and stabbed numerous times and died.
The autopsy provided more details. Sabina had been bitten several times. She had also been beaten, strangled, and stabbed. It was a crime of extreme violence, a crime of passion. And as the investigation got going, investigators quickly came up with a possible suspect.
From the first or second or third day, it was concentrated on Roy Brown.
The very first tips led to a man named Roy Brown. It made perfect sense to Sabina's fellow social workers, who often deal with tense family situations. They had experience with Roy.
He had been arrested for making a phone call to the Department of Social Services and threatening to kill people in the Cayuga County office building where the Department of Social Services was located. Prior to that phone call, his daughter had been removed from his home. They found him unfit for one reason or another and did not want her in the home.
The threat, I won't forget it, was you keep messing with my family. Do you want me to come down there and open up with an Uzi?
Roy Brown served time in jail for those threats. He was released just days before Sabina was murdered, raging at the injustice of the situation.
They were wrong. They were dead wrong. People in power, they abuse that power, a lot of them. And they get away with it. Well, I wasn't going to stand by like everybody else.
In an exclusive interview with On the Case, he talked about those days.
I guess I was just your everyday average Joe, so to speak.
Were you perceived as kind of a rough guy?
Yeah.
Tough guy?
Yeah, I guess so. Some people would say that.
Aggressive guy?
Yeah. When I know something's wrong and I know what's right, I can get real aggressive.
They said, well, he must have got out of jail and been angry and then picked somebody out of a hat and killed them.
Although Sabina had not been assigned to his case, she did work for the social service department that took Roy Brown's daughter away from him. That was more than enough to call him in for questioning. But from the moment Brown walked in, Detective Eckert thought something didn't seem right.
He looked over at me and smiled as if to say, hello, how are you today? His teeth were bad. I mean, he was missing half his teeth.
Before bringing Brown in, Ecker had reviewed the bite mark evidence from the autopsy.
And when I looked at those bite marks, I thought, what a beautiful set of teeth. All of them were right there in the body.
To Ecker's untrained eye, Brown's toothless smile didn't seem like a match to the killer's bite marks. He also noticed that Roy was a small man with feet that appeared much too small to match the size 13 boot prints found at the crime scene.
I simply stated, nothing matches up with him. I don't think he's the guy we're looking for. The others present didn't really take kindly to that. They weren't too appreciative of me saying that.
Without explanation from his supervisors, Ecker was taken off the case just days later. Meanwhile, other investigators continued taking a hard look at Roy Brown.
He had a rap sheet. He had arrests and convictions for various sorts of crimes, including drugs and weapons charges and things of that sort. He had the violent history. He was a tough guy, you know. I mean, he identified himself as a criminal, and he said he'd be willing to kill people.
Willing to kill someone he blamed for taking his daughter away. Police were convinced Roy Brown was their man. Coming up, a suspect in the crosshairs.
He was the poster boy for bad boy. He perhaps was his own worst enemy.
He kind of resembled Charlie Manson. He looked guilty.
The murder of social worker Sabina Kulikowski shocked the small town of Auburn, New York. She was dearly loved by those who knew her, and the community wanted justice served quickly. Police were confident they had found her killer, an aggressive, tough guy who had little respect for the law. His name was Roy Brown.
He was the poster boy for bad boy, and he didn't make very many friends. He perhaps was his own worst enemy.
Roy Brown was a man with a clear motive, a weak alibi, and a bad reputation.
He was a nasty guy, and he was a drunk, and he had all kinds of anger management problems. And I think that he really didn't know what he was doing from one day to the next himself.
Even his own defense attorney was wary of him.
I had heard the tape of his phone call to the social services worker from a year before, which he did a year in jail for. And it was kind of intimidating. I thought, I don't know if I want to meet this Roy Brown that we're representing.
But there was something about him. Brown had a confidence, almost a cockiness, when he talked about being innocent.
I didn't think they were going to arrest me at all. I figured I would get them on the right track and they'd leave me alone and go find their killer.
And he went to the police station to talk to the officers, and he took his shirt off. You would certainly expect that if somebody had been involved in a fight, like there must have been in the course of this crime, that he would have had marks, defensive wounds.
But Brown had no wounds, and investigators couldn't tie him to anything in Sabina's home. As the investigation moved forward, Brown cooperated fully, volunteering hair and blood samples. Police also took casts of his sneakers and impressions of his teeth.
He said, take everything. I didn't do this. I just want to clear my name. I didn't do it. Go ahead, take everything. Satisfy yourselves. He cooperated in every way.
But one of the tests led to a huge break in the case. The imprints of Roy's teeth were declared a perfect match to the bite marks on Sabina's body. The prosecution also learned that Roy had a history of biting.
There were interviews that were conducted with his estranged wife and a common-law wife, both of whom he had been violent with. The wives mentioned that when he was angry, he had bitten them on previous occasions and severely. I mean, they were scared to death.
What sort of information did they ask you for?
Our whole background, but then they just focused on biting.
Prosecutors now had solid evidence to support their suspicions. On June 4th, 1991, Roy Brown was arrested and charged with Sabina Kulikowski's murder.
The prosecution's case was based on the idea that A, he threatened social workers, B, Sabina Kulikowski was a social worker, C, the bite marks supposedly matched Roy Brown's.
District Attorney Paul Carbonaro decided to get a second opinion on the bite marks. He contacted Dr. Lowell Levine, a renowned forensic expert with the New York State Police.
One of the things you need to remember about bite injuries are that it is possible for somebody to have teeth but not leave a marking. It is totally not possible for somebody to leave a marking if there's no tooth there. Mr. Brown was missing 2 teeth, and that really was the basis for my opinion that Mr. Brown couldn't have caused the injury.
Dr. Levine's finding that the bite marks were not Roy Brown's was preliminary, but he shared his conclusion with prosecutors.
We wanted to think about this. I mean, it was an important thing. As it happens, it was an election year, and within a couple of weeks after that, a district attorney was elected, a new district attorney who hadn't been involved in our office, James Vargason.
The new district attorney, James Vargason, was thrown into the case during his first month in office.
He hasn't done a traffic ticket, he hasn't done a petty larceny, he hasn't done a DWI, and he's stepping in his first case ever is the Roy Brown murder case.
He's promising to convict me. He could not afford to lose this trial. You know, the whole community depended on him, so to speak.
And you believe you were the man that was going to win him or deliver his political glory?
Yeah.
The new prosecutor never followed up with Dr. Levine about the bite marks.
I showed them, my preliminary findings and the reasons for it. And they took their evidence and left. That was the end of the case as far as I was concerned.
Instead, prosecutors decided to go with the local forensic dentist who concluded Roy Brown was the man who bit Sabina. With that, the trial began.
This was very notorious murder. Sabina Kulikowski was this very well-liked social worker.
The prosecution painted a picture of Roy Brown as a biter, a violent man who was seeking revenge, a man who had no alibi for the night of the murder.
The alibi was no good. It was full of holes. He said he was drunk, which it turned out he was. And when he got mad at women, he bit them. 2 and 2.
It did seem to add up, and prosecutors thought the evidence about the bite marks, that first report from a local dentist, would complete the equation.
There was the prosecution's expert, Dr. Mofson, who testified the bite marks matched Roy Brown's imprints.
And matched up the bite marks, and they seemed to match.
Then the prosecution brought in another witness, a man who once served time with Roy.
A man by the name of Gordon Wiggins, who claimed that he was in jail at one time with Roy, said that Roy called him and supposedly confessed to the crime.
During the testimony, Roy was silent, but that didn't mask his contempt.
How would you characterize your trial?
It was a great American frame-up. You know, they had it all, all planned and packaged away.
He looked guilty. He was a scruffy-looking guy. He had a history of alcoholism. He kind of resembled Charlie Manson.
The defense went out and found their own dental expert, someone with an unparalleled reputation.
That witness was one of the foremost experts in the country, Dr. Campbell. He teaches the FBI on this kind of thing. And he testified that there was no way that the bite marks could match because, frankly, Roy Brown is missing 2 teeth.
With that compelling testimony, it was starting to look like an open and shut case.
I'm missing 4 upper teeth. You know, it looks, if I bit something, it looks like Bugs Bunny bit it, you know?
The defense felt they had shot down the only piece of evidence connecting Roy to the crime. They felt good about their chances.
We never thought things were not looking good for Roy. They didn't have a star witness. They had a lot of junk witnesses. They had the jailhouse informant.
For the detective who started the investigation, the trial confirmed his early doubts about the evidence.
My thinking was no jury in the land is gonna, no county jury is gonna convict this guy. He'll get off.
A confident Roy Brown and his mother made plans to celebrate his acquittal.
His mother had prepared spaghetti and meatballs for after the acquittal. They were going to go to her house for spaghetti and meatballs after the truth came out and the jury found him not guilty.
Coming up, the verdict.
I started to second guess myself. I said, maybe I'm crazy.
I was stunned. I couldn't believe it.
The prosecution's case against Roy Brown was built on bite marks, a jailhouse informant, and threats Roy had made to the office where Sabina Kulikowski worked. The defense challenged all of it. After completing deliberations, the jury was ready to announce the verdict.
They came back with a guilty verdict. And I started to second guess myself. I said, maybe I'm crazy.
The verdict may have unnerved his supporters, but Roy Brown remained defiant.
He said, I'm innocent, immediately let everybody know again, I'm innocent, I didn't do this, this is wrong, there's something terribly wrong.
When the foreman announced the guilty verdict, what was your reaction?
This ain't good. 25 to life is 25 to death to me, because I'm not going to accept parole for something I didn't do.
It bothered him substantially that people thought that he had done this horrible crime. And he just wanted his name cleared, not just so he wouldn't go to prison, but so people wouldn't think he was that kind of a guy, so his kids wouldn't think he was that kind of a guy.
Roy and his lawyers believe there was plenty that could still be challenged in court. The boot print taken from the scene of the crime had not been submitted as evidence during the trial. The size 13 print was not a match to Roy's smaller foot, and Roy's ex-wife recanted her testimony that he was a biter. The defense filed an appeal.
We're fairly optimistic on the appeal, even though not that many appeals result in reversal of criminal convictions, and get the appeal and they uphold the verdict. And one of the worst phone calls I ever had to make was to tell Roy what had happened, that his conviction had been upheld.
He'd lost in court again. His fate seemed sealed. Roy Brown would be locked up for a long, long time. But a remarkable thing happened. Prison life transformed Roy. The hard-drinking tough guy became a rehab counselor, helping his fellow inmates. He also became a deeply religious man.
He found a God while he was in prison, and that I think gave him some peace. But he always kept at it, trying to find that one key that would get him out.
And after a few years, Roy believed advances in DNA testing could be that key. He made several attempts to get testing done on saliva samples from Sabina's body and the T-shirt found at the crime scene. He was certain DNA evidence would clear him, but his motions were rejected again and again.
6 or 7 years had gone by before we really felt like we were at a legal roadblock on what could be done. It's like, Roy, I don't know what else to do.
His conviction and defeats in court put a long-planned victory celebration with his mother on hold. She died with her son still behind bars. It was Roy's darkest moment. And she really stood by it.
Right. Every day she was alive.
And not being able to comfort her in any way, or being for her at the end of her life.
They took me to the wake, 35 pounds of chains on, but I got back, they told me that was a privilege. I didn't think it was a privilege at all, so.
After his mother's death, Roy rededicated himself to his case. He spent hours in the prison library trying to find something, anything, that might exonerate him.
I mean, I didn't do nothing wrong. I'm gonna die here. I'm gonna fight every day that I'm alive to prove myself innocent.
Then, Roy got some news that suddenly gave his efforts a new sense of urgency.
He had this liver disease. It was caused he was all yellow and gaunt, had lost an awful lot of weight. He was dying, and it was really doubtful that he would live long enough to see himself exonerated. But he kept at it.
When it seemed most hopeless, things only got worse. Another tragic fire destroyed all of the documents Roy had collected through the years.
My mom's house burnt down, and all my papers were there, all my transcript papers and everything.
These were the papers from the trial?
Right.
That your family had been storing for you. Roy filed a Freedom of Information Act request to obtain new copies of his file to replace the documents lost in the fire. The person in charge of that request was Co Ecker, the same detective who always believed Roy was an innocent man. Co was just 2 weeks shy of retirement.
Nothing mattered to me, and I didn't care if the DA's office had the request or not. I simply told the records clerk, run Mr. Brown a copy of every statement in the folder there, and send him a copy. And she started to complain, so that's going to take quite a bit of money. It's going to be costly. And I cut her off, and I said, just run Mr. Brown a copy of every statement in there.
Brown received all the documents he had requested, and much more. There were several things he'd never seen before.
I got a list of names of the statements they had. They sent me a list of here's all the statements we have. And I looked down this list, I'm thinking, well, there's a lot of benches here. I never heard of this Barry bench and a few other people in there.
Barry Bench's brother had dated Sabina Kulikowski. His family owned the farmhouse where she was killed, and Barry lived nearby with his girlfriend, Tamara. On the night of the murder, Barry and Tamara had been fighting. Roy read his affidavit with great interest.
I got into a slight domestic with my paramour and left the house around 5 p.m. I went to Jake's Tavern. I stayed there until 12:30, 1 a.m., and left without telling anyone where I was going. During that time period, I had 5 12-ounce buds.
After fighting with his girlfriend Tamara, Barry Bench went out drinking at a nearby tavern. The couple later made up, and Barry drove home. It was then Tamara noticed something out of the ordinary. Barry, a dedicated firefighter, unplugged the monitor where he would pick up calls to respond to a fire.
I went to plug it in, and he said, no, don't plug it in, just leave it. He was too drunk, too tired, didn't want to bother with it. So I didn't think much of it, you know, too much, but except that, I mean, he'd go on calls whether he was drunk or not. So it was unusual, yeah. You know, I can't remember a time ever where he had left it on.
For a decade in prison, this was all new information to Roy Brown. So when you're reading this affidavit, are you thinking this is my freedom?
Yeah, well, I figured I got to prove who did it, or I got to get DNA testing. I've already been denied by the court about 9 times trying to get DNA testing, even after it became the law. So I filed some papers for the court, for the federal court, to seek a DNA test on him. And I sent him a letter, letting him know you're not going to get away with this, man.
Roy was convinced he had found Sabina's killer. A few days before Christmas 2003, he mailed Barry Bench that letter. Neither one of them would ever be the same. Coming up, the contents of Roy Brown's letter to Barry Bench.
Have a Merry Christmas, but don't count on a Happy New Year. May you reach and find God before God reaches and finds you.
And the shocking response.
I didn't care about the son of a bitch at all.
Roy Brown's health was failing. The convicted felon accused of murdering Sabina Kulikowski was determined to clear his name before his liver condition killed him. New documents provided new evidence, and he wrote Barry Bench, the man he believed had committed the crime, about these findings. On Christmas Eve 2003, Roy Brown mailed Barry Bench an accusatory letter. Roy read it for us.
I will say there's a chance of 1 in a million that I am wrong. Believe me, I know what it's like to be falsely accused.
He said the justice he had fought for so long was finally at hand because of DNA testing.
Witnesses can commit perjury, judges can be fooled, and juries can make mistakes. When it comes to DNA testing, there's no mistakes. DNA is God's creation, and God makes no mistakes. Even if I have to stay in prison, at least the world will know of my innocence and your guilt.
He ended his letter with an ominous prayer.
Have a Merry Christmas, but don't count on a Happy New Year. May you reach and find God before God reaches and finds you.
Roy Brown was convinced he'd found a killer. As an inmate trying to overturn his own conviction, maybe Roy's conclusion wasn't all that surprising. But no one expected what happened next.
The guards came to my cell and said, hey, the sergeant wants to see you. And I went down to the sergeant's office. They had a clipboard with a copy of the envelope that I sent and a copy of the letter. So, did you send it? So I figured, now I'm in trouble for harassment, you know? So, you know, he starts talking to me. He says, yeah, I sent it. And he says, well, he killed himself.
Just days after receiving Roy's letter, Barry Bench set himself down on a railroad track. He was crushed by an Amtrak train. Did you feel any sense of guilt that the letter in some way might have provoked the suicide?
No. I mean, I didn't care about the son of a bitch at all. You know, he killed a lady and sent me to prison for life. I didn't care about him whatsoever. I hope he felt the most pain possible before he died. But burying his body, that screws me up with proving my innocence.
Tamara Eckstadt had broken up with Barry years before, but news of his suicide shocked her.
I couldn't imagine what was so
desperate that would make him, and to do it the way he did in front of a train, it just kind of blew me away.
Barry's suicide left Roy reeling. It certainly seemed incriminating, but Barry did not confess before he stepped in front of the train.
In one sense, that kind of points to his guilt now, but in another sense, I thought I was really screwed. Because if he killed himself, he's going to get buried. I can't very well get DNA testing on a dead man.
Roy filed a motion to vacate his conviction based on the newly discovered affidavits about Barry. It was rejected. He turned to his lawyer, Katie Karlovitz.
We finally have something to work with again. And I said, Roy, don't do anything else. You could actually hurt your case. Don't do anything else.
Karlovitz and her firm had been working on Roy's case pro bono for years. She was sure this was the break that would make all the difference.
When we found these affidavits from Barry Bench and Tamara, I thought, well, they must have gone back and talked to them again. There must be other police reports. And that's when I talked to Tamara, and she said, police never came back.
Brown's attorneys couldn't believe Tamara had never been asked a basic question about her then-boyfriend, Barry. Was he a biter?
They never asked her. So, of course, our investigator asked her, did Barry Bench ever bite you? Yeah, he bit me. I had teeth marks. One time he got very angry and he bit me on my breast. They never asked her that. I think that even might have been enough to change the verdict in the case.
Karlovitz contacted the Innocence Project, a national organization dedicated to working on behalf of prisoners they believe have been wrongfully convicted.
We just found this stuff, this information that points to somebody else, and I thought for dramatic effect, I put in there Roy's letter to Barry Bench, and by the way, he laid down in front of an Amtrak train and killed himself.
Innocence Project lawyer Nina Morrison was moved by Katie's commitment to her client. She also saw evidence that pointed to Roy's possible innocence.
Two things that stood out in particular are, first, that Roy was convicted based on bite mark evidence, which is something that we at the Innocence Project know is a real red flag for wrongful conviction. The other thing that stood out about this case, of course, is the remarkable story of how Roy had written a letter to Barry Bench, the man he believed was the real perpetrator, who Katie told me had committed suicide so soon afterwards.
It was an opportunity for Roy Brown. But since his conviction had already been upheld several times, getting another chance in court was no sure thing.
And in this case, where so many people from Cayuga County said, oh, Roy Brown, he's guilty, there's no reason to do a test, we really had an uphill battle to convince them that science should trump what they thought they knew about the case.
Roy had struggled for 12 years to overturn his conviction. But now, Roy's battle for justice had become a race. His liver was failing. He was dying. Then finally, in 2006, a request by the Innocence Project for DNA testing was approved.
The most critical item of evidence that we ultimately tested was the nightgown that the victim in this case had worn on the night she was killed. It was a long t-shirt that had blood stains on it, but most importantly also had saliva stains in the precise areas where the perpetrator had clearly bitten through her shirt. And it was so obvious that if you tested that DNA and it didn't come from Roy, it would be very strong proof of his innocence. And more importantly, you could compare that DNA both to Barry Bench and to anyone else.
Roy, who felt so betrayed by the justice system, now put his full faith in science. After an agonizing 7-month wait, the results from the t-shirt came back. DNA belonging to a female and a male were identified. The female DNA belonged to Sabina Kulikowski. The male DNA was not Roy Brown's. But that wasn't enough to prove his innocence. It was only a first step.
The next step was to see if we could determine who it did come from.
If further testing showed the male DNA belonged to some anonymous John Doe, it probably wouldn't rule out Roy as Sabina's killer. To clear his name, Roy needed the DNA to match Barry Bench. His lawyers reached out to Barry's daughter.
She immediately said, you know, listen, I want to know the truth. If my father was involved in this murder or committed this murder, I have nothing to hide, and he has nothing to hide. So if I can be helpful in any way, let me know. And she actually asked us, can I give you my DNA, and will that help solve the case?
Barry Bench's daughter volunteered a sample of her saliva.
That was quite a decision on her part. When you think about it, how many children would be so motivated to try to get an innocent man out of jail and at the same time affect the reputation of her own father?
The stage was set once and for all. A dying man had one last chance to prove his innocence. Coming up, the dramatic conclusion of Roy Brown's long legal battle.
I did the prosecutor's job, I did the sheriff's job, you know, and now they want me to prove who did it. I'm innocent.
Want more on the case? Go to investigationdiscovery.com/PaulaZahn and view more exclusive interviews and behind-the-scenes video. Roy Brown's health was deteriorating, but his determination to prove his innocence was as strong as ever. DNA testing proved someone else had been involved in the murder of Sabina Kulikowski. The man Roy suspected had committed suicide. The man's daughter volunteered a DNA sample. The results could finally end a legal battle that had lasted 15 years. Barry Bench's suicide seemed like a desperate act by a man hiding a terrible secret. When test results on a DNA sample volunteered by his daughter came in, it was a match for Barry. Roy Brown was certain the news would set him free. He was wrong.
We finally go to court. We prove it's not my DNA. We prove it's his DNA, 99.9%, you know, was the judge I had. And he says, it doesn't prove that Barry Bench is a killer. It proves that her father, whoever that may be, now he's insulting her mother, you know, saying she could be a tramp or something. Whoever he may be is the perpetrator. Nevertheless, he sent me back to prison.
So you're saying the judge is basically saying that Barry Bench may not even have been your father. It could have been anybody.
That's what he told her.
If she wasn't his daughter, then she was the daughter of some other man who happened to be the real killer, but had no connection to the case and hadn't committed suicide and hadn't been, you know, missing for the hour and a half around the time Sabina Kulikowski was murdered. It just made no sense.
I did the prosecutor's job. I did the sheriff's job. You know, and now they want me to prove who did it. I'm innocent.
There could be only one way to definitively place Barry Bench at the scene of the crime. The district attorney ordered a new DNA test on Barry Bench himself. His body was exhumed, and a DNA sample from saliva that was found on a part of Sabina's T-shirt, which lined up with a bite mark on her body, was compared to a DNA sample from Barry Bench's body. It was a perfect match.
The evidence strongly points to someone else.
Roy, how do you feel? You're a free man. After an incredibly grueling journey, Roy Brown was finally vindicated. His murder conviction was vacated on January 23, 2006. 15 years to the day after a jury had convicted him of murder. The news stunned Sabina's friends.
What do you mean he's not guilty? He's the guy you said murdered our friend. Well, then who murdered our friend? You know, we were left hanging.
The system had failed Sabina Kulikowski, and it had failed Roy Brown.
It was the worst case of tunnel vision that I've ever seen. They just homed in on Roy Brown, and there was really nothing you could do about it.
He suffered a nightmare that most of us could never imagine, but he's very lucky that there was still some DNA evidence that could prove his innocence, and that a court clerk happened to give him the documents, which she probably wasn't supposed to do, that led him down the path to discovering who really committed the murder that had sent him to prison.
Roy had lived long enough to prove his innocence. But when he left the courthouse, he could barely stand on his own 2 feet.
And you were pretty much convinced you were going to die
Yeah,
from your liver disease.
yeah.
You didn't think you were going to get a liver transplant.
No. You can't get a liver transplant if you're incarcerated anyway. You know, when I did get out of jail, January 23rd, 2007, I went from the prison to court to the hospital. Doctors told me, well, there's nothing they can really do. They don't have a liver for me. So they gave me 2 or 3 days.
It was a bittersweet moment. Roy had fought for 15 years to win his freedom. Now, he would only have a few days to enjoy it. As weak as he was, he decided to spend whatever time he had left in the woods camping.
I went up there and they called me on the phone. So I'm just saying, well, just reschedule it then, you know? We need to see you today or something. And I was kind of out of it, so I gave the phone to my nephew.
A donor had been found. Roy was rushed back to the hospital and received a liver transplant. It was a success.
And here I am. So thank God for DNA testing. Thank God for liver transplants. So, modern science.
Roy slowly regained his health and is now working on building a new life for himself and his fiancée, Raina. Although Barry Bench's DNA was found at the scene, Sabina Kulikowski's murder remains unsolved. The investigation, open. Police have never established a motive for the crime.
I think it's very evident that he had demons. As much as we fought, I just couldn't picture him being that brutal to anyone. I lived with this person for like 7 more years after the crime was committed. So it just kind of boggles your mind to know that you can be with somebody for that many years and not really.
Left this Court of Claims courtroom today, again vindicated.
Well, it's some sort of justice, you know. It doesn't correct things, doesn't make things right. You know, I can still feel the weight of them chains, but they're not that heavy anymore.
I think authority, incredible.
Today, Roy sings and plays guitar in a band called Pony, an acronym for Prisoner of New York.
Lost in all the noise surrounding the murder of Sabina Kulikowski, I think, is the story of her life.
She deserved more justice than anybody, Sabina Kulikowski, because she was dead all them years with her killer walking around free in the world.
You sat in jail for almost 16 years, convicted of murdering her.
Yeah, when you leave prison, you leave something behind. And you take something with you. And I keep going. Forget the past, I can't change that.
Since his release, Roy Brown has been an outspoken advocate for criminal justice reform. He gives speeches about his own wrongful conviction and is trying to help people he met in prison who he claims have also been wrongfully imprisoned. I'm Paula Zahn. Join us next time when we're back on the case. Want more on the case? Go to investigationdiscovery.com/Paula Zahn and view more exclusive interviews and behind-the-scenes video.
Well, the DNA says it's him.
Very good.
But the judge laid it out there, so you'll never be able to prove it. Yeah, it doesn't matter what the judge did to protect him, and it doesn't matter that he's dead and can't be brought to trial. What matters is the evidence, is God's evidence, is DNA. We proved he's the killer, and that's it.